Hey, what is up everyone? This video is long overdue. This is my Fury Warrior PvP guide for level 100 PvP in Warlords of Draenor. And yes, you guessed it by the look of my warrior, I'm playing Fury because guess what? It's a good time. So in this video we're going to break down a lot of the basic mechanics I have personally been using and have been asked about during my time using Warrior PvP thus far. So hopefully when we go through talents, stat priority, and everything along those lines, we'll be able to answer maybe a few questions that you have had throughout your experience so far with Warrior in Warlords of Draenor, and maybe learn a new thing or two as well. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So starting off with talents, the first talent we have for level 15's tier is Double Time. This is in relation to your charge, and honestly, this is kind of a preferential thing, but me personally running this spec, I have really enjoyed having 2 charges in an expansion where so far warrior mobility is limited. Now on the level 30 tier, we have Enraged Regeneration. If you remember playing in Mists, you know very well that Second Wind was the undoubted way to go. Well, that has shifted. Second Wind does not really do anything anymore, but Enraged Regeneration is a 1-minute cooldown that is kind of the same strength of what Second Wind was. Now note, I said it's a 1-minute cooldown. So its use is more for damage mitigation, but in a pinch situation under pressure, this can be a lifesaver. Now, I've run into a lot of controversy taking this talent, and honestly, that's what I'm here to explain. I run Unquenchable Thirst, and the reason being for this is because it is undoubtedly the tankiest build for Fury Warriors, not even just Fury Warriors, but Warriors in general. Now, if you have played a Warrior in Warlords so far, you realize that their defensives are pretty slim. Now, you look at this tier and you see Sudden Death and you see Furious Strikes and you wonder to yourself, well, why wouldn't I take the reduced rage cost, or why wouldn't I take a free execute? Well, as I'm going to elaborate more in this video, the thing with Unquenchable Thirst is it allows you to sit in defensive stance and still generate rage, it allows you to run a constant heal set without a cooldown, and when used properly and efficiently, lets you build procs in a manner that will not only provide consistent damage, but wicked burst. So as we'll explain more, level 45, Unquenchable Thirst. Now the level 60 tier is 2 talents you know and love, but unfortunately are now on the same tier. If you're in an RBG situation, or any situation involving group fights, so battlegrounds, even 5v5 arenas, I would recommend Shockwave. However, if you find yourself in another arena situation such as a 3v3 or a 2v2, you will still want to resort to Stormbolt, as it is a ranged and targeted stun. So you don't have to conally target anyone like Shockwave, you can just throw your weapon halfway across the arena. So, depending on situation, Shockwave and Stormbolt are the way to go. The level 75 tier as well is a tier of talents that's taken a lot of criticism this expansion, and I will explain my personal uses thus far. For RBGs and situations in 3s and even 2s that involve either heavy spell casting or the like, I use Mass Spell Reflection as it is crucial for reflecting polymorphs and all of that good stuff. But if you find yourself in another arena form, say like a 3v3 that's heavy melee, or an RBG that you know is a very heavy melee comp, I would take Vigilance. Safeguard no longer breaks roots, and Vigilance, while having a 2-minute cooldown, is a stronger safeguard, and you can use it from a distance while rooted, etc. So if you need to peel a healer, Vigilance is really the way to go. Now, Warriors and Warlords of Draenor so far have seen a lot of restricted mobility against all ranged classes, really, and for that reason alone, I would take, for your level 90 talent, Bladestorm. Now, where Avatar and Bloodbath are still strong, the strength that you get from Bladestorm is that every minute you can break roots and become immune to CC while still moving and doing damage. Not to mention that, especially in Fury where both of your weapons hit main hand and offhand, Bladestorm is a very strong damage dealer as well, especially in group situations. Now, I do speak passionately on the level 100 tier, but I say with confidence I believe there is no better talent than Anger Management. For every 30 rage that you spend, it takes a second off of all of your critical cooldowns, including Blade Storm, Recklessness, Shockwave, Stormbolt. Your defensives, Die by the Sword, Rallying Cry. This, when you are in a very, very rage-spendy situation, allows you to reduce cooldowns, which both offensively and defensively is so critical. While you can take Ravager for pretty okay group DPS, or Siegebreaker for whatever reason, Anger Management, 100% the way to go. Now, glyphs are also very critical for this build. As you'll see, the first major glyph we have here is the glyph of Rallying Cry, which, when you use Rallying Cry, adds a leech to your attacks while you are still under the effects of Rallying Cry. So you can imagine that, you know, as a defensive already, Rallying Cry is pretty strong, but now add that little bit of leech onto it, adds you just a little bit more tankiness. And as you'll see here, this is another critical point building off of why we take Unquenchable Thirst in this build. This is the Glyph of Bloodthirst, which increases the healing done by Bloodthirst by 100%. Now you can imagine Bloodthirst having no cooldown and now increased healing lets you run, more or less, a no-cost conversion from a DK that not only does a little bit of damage, but heals you consistently without a cooldown. You control when you get the heals. And of course, the last major glyph here is a glyph of Bulrush, which I have found critical even since Mists, and it simply states that your charge generates 15 additional rage. Especially taking a tier talent like Anger Management, the more rage you can generate means the more rage you can spend, and the more rage that you can spend means the more time you can take off of your cooldowns. Really nice glyph to have. And now we touch on the final point that I have taken the most questions from alongside criticism as well. As you can see, the stat priority I am using for the spec is Mastery over Crit. This goes back to us taking Unquenchable Thirst. Now, look at the theory here. If you are able to spam Bloodthirst, this means that you are almost constantly enraged. Imagine now building up your procs and throwing all of your procs into a constant state of enraged, which on my screen is constant 23% increased damage. You take a look at